Calgary, it's a place of voiceover, but I have no clue how it works because I am dumb. So I brought on 2 new guests to educate me on this brand new Kirblog. Congratulations. This is the one episode of this entire thing I'm comfortable enough to whip out the fucking kazoo.
Wow. I did not know you were such an artist.
Oh, it's heavy quotation marks on that.
That was brilliant. I'm in tears.
Yeah, we're weeping. That was a beautiful symphony.
I hear it. I hear it coming up. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Voiceoctover 2016, where I'm interviewing various voice acting veterans from the US and Canada, learn about the history of how they started and where they started. Hopefully, if you could tell from that sonnet I just whipped up in a few hours ago. Today we're going to be talking about a place that is actually quite a mystery to me, and it's going to be a very educational experience for me after all, Calgary, up in Canada. And I'm joined by another couple of first-time guests. This is actually, I think the only of the 6 I'm doing for this where it's multiple on at once. But these 2 are basically tied to the goddamn hip, and I figured I couldn't have one without the other.
No. You found us out.
Yeah. I mean that in the nicest way possible. My God, where do I even begin? You would know both of them from various Mega Man X series games recorded at Blue Water Studios, as well as the mysterious and hard to track down alternate Canadian dubs of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT that do in fact exist. A personal favorite of mine, Mobile Suit G Gundam, classic show. The 1998 version of the Hunter x Hunter anime, not the one on Cartoon Network right now. Future Card Buddyfight, Cardfight Vanguard, God, the list goes on. Oh, and also a show that is near and dear to my heart, and literally it is across from my heart because my microphone has been on the box set of this show for I can't even remember how many years it's been my microphone stand. My Hime. I'm joined by the lovely and talented Carol Anday and Lucas Gilbertson. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi. Or collectively known, I guess, together is Hermit Sherpa, what you're both known as a duo. Is that right?
That's 100%.
Correct, sir.
Oh, God. Well, I'm going to get to that because I do want to talk about that stuff. But first, let's talk about the boring voiceover shit. Well, I hope not, at least.
So boring.
What I'm actually really intrigued about, because I at least I think is the case for the people that I have had on, I think that you guys both, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys started the youngest of all the people that I'm having on, because you both, I think, started when you were teenagers. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I started when I was 14. I think I got my first role.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my God! And actually, to me, that isn't so surprising because I've had a kind of an inclination that the Vancouver and Calgary and Toronto voiceover scenes, as it were, all have a whole lot of really, really talented kid actors that so many of which have gone on to still do stuff to this day. So I guess to start off with, the boring, generic, how did you guys get started in voiceover? Tell me your stories, because I don't know and I want to know.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, I killed a guy.
As you do.
It's a little bit of black magic.
Yeah.
But for real, I killed a guy.
I stole his voice. I ripped his throat out and I put it in my mouth.
I gotcha. So I'm assuming you murdered the previous original voice director of G Gundam when you were 14 and a rampant serial killer, and then the new guy came in and said, okay, well, I mean, if I fire her, she's going to kill me too, so what am I going to do?
Yeah, that's why I still work to this day.
Yeah. Fear.
I started acting when I was 12, and I started in theater, children's theater, and musical theater, community theater. And then I actually lucked out. One of my directors, really, really talented voice actress from Calgary as well, said, there's this great new studio. You should go audition, and I did. And then I moved in, and then they raised me there like Mowgli from the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
At Blue Water. So Blue Water is like the Calgarian jungle, more or less, where you and your loincloth were.
Yeah.
And I still wear that.
Who was the lady who got you in on the scene?
Mariette Sluter.
Oh God. I know that. Oh, where do I know her from? I know she was in a show I watched.
She's been in, she is in your mic stand.
Oh, is she? Oh, is she one of the 3 leads?
Yeah, she was Midori.
Oh, wow. Oh my God, it's been so long.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that's awesome. Oh, well, then that's kind of funny that you two were kind of like bro sisses in that show for so long.
It was cool. I've always had so much respect for her, and the fact that she hooked me up with the studio essentially was just everything.
It was a really friendly industry to start in. It was like because when we started, that was when the studio was brand new.
Yeah.
That was like one of the first year or two. Caroline started maybe a year before I did.
Because I'm awesome.
She's awesomer. And and at that point, it was invite only. It was like who you knew, and they'd go, well, you do voices, you should come here. And then you would go there and do voices. And so it was kind of the same for me. Like I got invited to go to a general audition because my sister did voice work there. And her name was Lucas Gilbertson. And she was in stuff like Ayashi no Ceres and a bunch
she
of
was
random
also
things.
in My Hime.
Yeah,
she was in everything.
She was
amazing.
in a bunch of stuff. She's really, really good. And then I was that annoying little brother that never shut up. I just still am. Humming to myself, making noise. And so they went, well, you are constantly making noise. You should probably audition.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Also,
exactly.
I think your sister might have been partially, in a small way, responsible for the puberty of me and my friends because she played the hot Russian girl from G Gundam that was in charge of Golsky. So I was like, yeah, how about that?
Hilarious.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I didn't have the same experience with it because she's my sister.
Well, yeah, I would hope not, because dear God. See, it's funny too because in my own research, especially when I was anybody listening, if you've seen the Mega Man Did You Know voice actings, those were where I was doing a lot of research into Calgary. And I actually called up Blue Water to see if I could maybe interview some people and etc. And it's funny because a lot of the same names I would see, Roger Rhodes, Jonathan Love, Dave Petit, a lot of those kind of guys that were in everything done up there. It seemed like Calgary was a very, very small group of people that just kind of did everything that they would get. But so when you guys started, what were like the first couple shows that you guys did when they started too?
My first show was Ceres, Ayashi no Ceres, followed by Zoids.
Okay.
Chaotic Sentry.
That's right. Which I think that was technically the first Zoids, even though it wasn't the first to come out over here. I think that one predates the.
It was actually just the best Zoids.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So you guys are like 14, 15 years old. You're doing this, and I presume had you done any other? Are you doing like commercials or any other kind of like VO before, or was this like your absolute first experience in a recording booth, more or less?
For me, it was my literal first.
Me too.
I walked in and my mouth was bone dry. The nerves were like consuming my being from the inside out, and I just did a bunch of voices, and they were like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Try it this way." And then I did that, and then I pretty much ran. I left the studio and they caught me in the parking lot and they're like, "Where are you going? Why'd you leave?" I was like, "I don't know. My audition's done. I'm going home."
I'm running away.
And they're like, "Well, just hang out for a minute. Here's some notes." And then 2 weeks later, my first thing was a Zeta Gundam. It was Zeta Gundam for me.
Yeah, Zeta Gundam was.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
And because Gundam has been so all over the place between because you guys did some, Vancouver did a lot of them, we're doing a lot of them down here now. I think there's one that is in Japan with English-speaking voice actors, which is interesting. So okay, well then I guess when you started, I mean because that's like a trial by fire of also you have to know how to dub, also you have to fit into these flaps, and also you have to do all this. It's was it overwhelming when you first started, or did you just kind of pick up on it naturally?
It was both. It started out really overwhelming, and then one of my first things I did was a show called Banner of the Stars.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of really random stuff that's not super well known, but it was a really good show. It's just that it had really complicated mecha, outer space anime technical jargon, And when you're that fresh, it's basically like doing these long paragraph long tongue twisters, and you're timed to the flaps. And it's also the second session you've ever had, and you're just like 14 and you're stumbling through as best you can. You know, it's
really very
difficult.
Intimidating. And I think
Terrifying.
we were really lucky at the time to have really, really good directors.
Yeah.
I know, like I had one of my best memories. We had a director named Terry Snellgrove, phenomenally encouraging and like patient woman.
She's a saint.
God love her.
Yeah.
So I'm 14 and the character I'm voicing is getting electrocuted.
Who was that? That was
Saris.
Yeah.
That was Saris.
Okay, yeah.
And I could not scream. I could not scream. I was terrified to scream. So I was doing these like, ah. It's like, she's like, no, no, no. She's like, no, you need to scream. And I was like, ah.
Like, no, scream, girl.
Oh my
She came
God.
into the booth and screamed in my face, match me, match me. Until I could actually scream.
Yeah, like tears coming down your face, screaming out of pure terror. You know,
But it was really cool being that young because you're kind of just
you're just forming. You're like a wee little duckling, and they're forming you into a voice actor.
and we were, I think, some of the first kids they had at the studio. So
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of learning from veterans and having like a lot of like the people I really respected at the time kind of guide me and teach me and show me the ropes.
Yeah, we learned by doing. That
Yeah.
it was trial by fire. It was learn on mic while everyone's listening.
Yep.
Right? The industry was so new when we started, there was no other way. It was literally you learning, and your learning and mistakes are printed, and then they go to broadcast, and and that's what you're judged on. And it's like, oh my God.
Well, 10 years later, you look back on it and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, thank God I learned how to act at
I
some
know.
point.
You brought up the Dragon Ball dub that like it was a Canadian thing, and also in parts of Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I those were some of my first sessions, and I listened to my voice, and it's like it's so different now. I have no idea how much I've grown. But it's great. I'm glad that I have.
And then puberty.
Yeah, puberty hits.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah. Well, I see.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think you guys, because I would say the Blue Water has like, although it's super niche, I think that they definitely have like some fans out there because G Gundam is like a dub that everybody knows. Oh, dude, I love the dub for G Gundam. It's so like it's just the right, it's just the right kind of like over the top ridiculousness and shit to it, and like, you know, that kind of stuff. And on My Hime, which I picked up like on a whim. I was seeing the character designs a lot. And I was like, oh, I recognize some of these people because even by that point I was becoming like an encyclopedia for this shit. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I recognize a few people in here. And I was like, oh, this is actually really good, man. I wish I heard these guys like in more stuff. And then actually, I would even argue that for a time you guys kind of certainly saved the quality of the Mega Man animation and video game stuff because previous games voiceover. I don't know if you guys have. I mean, I'm sure actually, Lucas, you've heard the infamous cutscene that you redubbed, which I was very happy about.
I'm glad.
Yeah, that's what we had for ages, and I was like, oh God, this is so much better, thank God. And you know, it's funny because there was a time, it seemed like there were like ebbs and flows of like we're gonna use lots of like actors that are like kind of close to the appropriate ages of these characters, and then they weren't doing that for a long time, and then now it seems like there's a big rise of that too, and it seemed like a kind of shifting back a little bit because I did have a question. I don't know if you guys know the full answer to this, but so Blue Water is like a sister company or something to Ocean Studios. Like, how exactly did it come about? Do you know?
Okay. This is a really it's a really good question, and it's a really tricky question for us to answer. So, but I'll talk about it as like transparently as I can.
Okay, no problem.
The first thing is to be like, that is a way more complicated question than you know, and that's why it's such a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, Blue Water is affiliated because that's not a secret. Blue Water is like a sister studio to the studio to Ocean Productions in Vancouver, and we split work between the two studios because of reasons that are complicated.
They're above our pay grade.
They're above our pay grade, and so if it feels like I'm hedging, it's because it's like, yeah, then if the wrong people hear me say the wrong things, they'll be like, oh, you die now.
Yeah, no. Well, we certainly don't want to get anybody in trouble, of course.
No.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, the two studios are affiliated. Technically, we are kind of.
We're independent, and
Yeah.
we will pretty much always be like the younger sibling studio, you know, and that's sort of the way. That's just the nature of the business. That has to do with a whole bunch of business stuff, you know.
Okay. Well, because see, I'm curious about that because I know that there has been a lot of crossover. Like I'll hear Matt Erickson in some shows in Vancouver. I'll see Gundam games where like James Corrigal will come there, I'm assuming, and direct you guys on that. I don't know exactly how it works. So I know that there is definitely like it's clear there's a connection. I'm just curious because like I wonder about like because I guess like in Texas, for instance, like people go between Houston and Dallas like all the time, and that's like a 4-hour commute, you know, for people. So I don't know how much like often there's travel between everybody between the different area, and then also there's like Toronto as well, which is much farther off. But most of the time, I'm assuming you guys are where you are.
We're pretty darn separate. The only time typically you'd hear somebody who's known from Blue Water in an ocean dub is if they move out to Vancouver.
And then there are projects that are literally split, and they're just recorded in both places simultaneously with different casts. I think. The thing that I think of Blue Water like this. Blue Water is like the world's underdog of dubbing, and there's so much there's so much quality and there's so much potential, and we don't often get the ability to showcase everything that we can do.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so like as much as that's like the best answer we can give without going out of bounds.
Of course. Well, I mean, when I do get to hear you, I mean, like, you know, I know the big one right now for you guys that's consistent, and is often the case for a lot of places that are, in terms of sustainment, are the, you know, Saturday morning, you know, toy-driven kind of shows. Like, you know, New York has Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, Funimation has Dragon Ball. Toronto has Beyblade and Bakugan to this day. You know, and you guys have these card shows, Vanguard and Buddyfight. Which I think they're connected. Is that right? I think.
Yeah, they're made by the same company. Buddyfight.
Because I think also because Carol, you're
Buddyfight's just
you're one of two. I think a couple of your characters are in both, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Well, something really funny happened along those lines. I was doing a business trip. So I work in Blue Water, and we have Cardfight, which is a card fighting game, obviously, and Buddyfight, which is another card fighting game. And I went down to New York to do some other business, and it turned out that the studio I was doing business with, they were in a studio that was within 4K Media. And so I totally forgot. I knew that, but I forgot. So I walked in the door, and all of a sudden I was like in our direct competitors, and there's like a cardboard cutout of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm like, I am cheating on my studio. I'm cheating on them. I'm like, and so I took a picture.
So you took a selfie.
I took a selfie. Like, I'm in front of the Yu-Gi-Oh thing, and like ignited a really minor firestorm of people being like, "What, are you gonna be in Yu-Gi-Oh? That doesn't make sense."
Wow,
I was like, "No,
I was just taking a selfie.
I'm just here, and it's kind of sketchy, but don't worry about it. That didn't happen."
Funny story about that. I think I told the story recently on another Kirblog, but I went there once for one audition, and it was the nicest. It was like one of the nicest looking facilities that had all, because like they had like all these like the stand-ups like you were talking about, these posters and like all these awards they had won from like, because when they were like the dominators of Saturday morning. And it's funny because I look at them like literally all they do is Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's it. They went from like, we control the entire anime like Saturday morning, you know, empire, and now it's like, we do Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's it. We're owned by Konami. It's like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird how there's an ebb and flow with studios like that. Like all of a sudden your studio will be on top and doing all sorts of stuff, and then all of a sudden it'll specialize and it'll do a niche thing, and then 10 years later it's something else. It
changes. Like even the content that we get at Blue Water has changed substantially in the last 16 years.
Yeah.
God,
so
we used to do like adulty stuff where people would die, and now we do a lot of kid-oriented stuff.
Yeah, we do a lot of toy shows.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is cool. I mean, Cardfight is fun.
Yeah, I love Cardfight.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's just so many pronunciations, just
Yeah.
one after the other.
gotta keep that brand consistent.
Yeah.
I as the Mega Man nerd that I am, I can't help but wonder, because actually what I thought was interesting, because it seemed like Capcom was doing like a lot of stuff out of Canada for a really long time, between both their games. Their games were in Toronto for a little while. with like Resident Evil and stuff, and then a lot of the shows based on like the Mega Man animated series, the classic Ruby Spears one and the NT Warrior one were done in Vancouver. And then it seemed like when there was a resurgence of like there was like a lot more Mega Man X games coming out, and then there was the powered up Mega Man game. It was like, oh, like this is like the hot spot, and there was like kind of some consistency between the cast of both and everything, and it was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and like it was fun to actually hear kind of, I guess, like proper versions of these characters from both of those franchises again. I know it's kind of just like it's one job, but like, and you have any like kind of interesting stories or memories about when you guys were doing work on like that franchise, as it were?
That was one of, I still think being Zero was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And because okay, I've told this story before, so I hope it's not redundant, but I was skipping school one day, and because I forget how old, like let's say I was like 15 or 16 or 17, I don't know, skipping class, and I got a call from the studio, and it was this French lady, Chloe, and she's like, Lucas, can you come in for an audition? And that's a horrible French accent.
That's the worst one.
That's not French.
Way to be from Canada.
I know, like, and I'm like, yeah, I totally can, because I'm skipping school right now. And so, what a positive message to send people. How'd you get the best role of your life? Well, I didn't go to school, I'll tell you that.
So don't do what I did, kids.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. And so I went like immediately. It was like I think someone else must have dropped out, and so I went down to the studio and I did the audition. It was for Zero, and I was, oh, this is super awesome. And the only direction that I got, I did a couple reads, and it was for lines at a command mission, I think. And they're like, that sounds great. I just need you to sound cooler. I was like, all right, I will sound cooler.
Okay, I'll sound
so cooler. And so I kept on being cooler and cooler, and then they
story of your life.
I know. And then they drove me, and then I kind of ended up sounding a bit like a surfer, because I think at that time that was what was cool to me, was surfers. And so I did the first Zero thing, and it went over really, really well. Or not, no, it actually didn't. I really enjoyed it, but there was a little bit of criticism online that I sounded like a surfer. And then so for X8 and whatever other one, the OVA, the Day of Sigma, I took that criticism online and I just exercised the surfer while still retaining the voice. Okay. And then people really liked it. And then from there, I started to realize the difference in being in something that a lot of people are already looking at, and how much positive response. And like, you gotta understand, like, I was just like a kid sitting in my basement on the computer being like, people actually like this. And it's profound. And then there's people talking about it, and it makes you want to get involved and stuff like that. So I don't know, I did more and more. I did the redubs that you saw, like the Death of Iris thing, kind of as an homage to what I had gotten out of it. Yeah. Right?
Well, Mega Man was so much, I think that was one of the first shows where they actually let me kind of drop into a lower register for Marino. And because, I mean, I think in the same game I did Ref Legion as well, which was a totally different character. Yeah. But for me, it was just really fun to kind of like explore that and to be given the freedom to kind of try something different. Because I think up until that point, I'd mostly just voiced pretty straightforward young girls.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think I like a while ago I missed like, oh, was she like Nana or like one of the more like I'm the girl like type person? Oh no, she was like the badass ninja girl, and I was like, oh cool, yeah, that's a little bit different than usual.
Totally different from anything that I'd done there previous.
Yeah, one of my favorite memories from recording the Day of Sigma OVA was that it wasn't actually really animated before we did it. Like, we're a dubbing studio, so for the most part, it's all already there and we matched flaps. In this case, it was based on timing, but I saw the whole OVA in like pencil scribbles and like hand-drawn Zero. And
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was so cool to be a part of it from that stage forward, because you never get that.
Well, you get really connected to a project, I think, that way.
Yeah, because it's either you see nothing and it's prelay, or you see the whole thing and it's dubbing. So it's like right in between the two.
Yeah. I think that's relatively common, because I think that Street Fighter was that way too, with a lot of the cutscenes for the recent ones. And I've done that actually. I think it's okay to say this with Gundam Origin, because they in that case they want to release that movie simultaneously in English and Japanese, there are some cases where it's not 100% done, and there will be a couple little animatic bits and everything, which from my animator's heart is like, ooh, Nito, ooh, I'm seeing,
exactly,
right? Shit, you know?
Yeah.
You get to see like the big process from a big studio.
Well, it's like the bones. Like you're watching it be built from the bones up. That's really amazing.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Another story that I have about Mega Man stuff, I was thinking, because someone was asking me recently, online I get a lot of questions. They're like, are you and Mark Gatha friends? How well do you know Mark Gatha? Because he was X, and like X and Zero, we are best friends.
I am X now.
You're X now.
Yes. Yeah. Accurate to the X4 voice that was like, what the hell?
Yeah. What's going on?
I think we can all agree it's the best X voice.
That is the best X. The funny thing is, like, I have never once met Mark Gatha in my life. I've never met him. I've never even seen him. He could walk by me on the street and I wouldn't know. I don't know who. I've never met him.
Isn't he like a doctor, like up in the mountains somewhere, like being a badass and saving lives or something? That's all I've heard.
Yes. Okay. And you want to know why you heard that?
Why?
That was me. Okay, someone online years ago when I did the first redub, people were asking me, and so I told them, I was like, oh, because I asked the studio, because I was hoping to get Mark to help me redub some stuff, and the studio was like, oh, he moved to Nova Scotia or St. John's or whatever, and he's a pediatrician, he's a doctor, and so I would tell people what's up. I would be like, hey, he's a doctor now. Don't worry, he's gone. He's not even in the same city. He can't do it. And then I realized, and then that spread, and I would start to see it in different forums, and people would be like, yeah, Mark, he's gone. He's in Nova Scotia. He's a doctor. And I realized the power that I had. So what I started doing, what I started doing, even like a few weeks ago, people would be like, oh, where's Mark Gatha? I'd be like, Mark Gatha died.
Oh, my God.
He's gone. And because I have the power. Because now everyone knows that he's dead. And then I'm starting a rumor. Mark Gatha, he's gone.
That can be hard. Somebody started a rumor that I was dead. There's a forum.
That was probably me too.
Jerk. No, there's legitimately a forum somewhere that I stumbled across like 10 years ago when I was Googling myself, and they're like, yeah, Carol Ann Day, she's dead. Car accident. She died.
Oh, that's.
And I was like, oh my God, am I okay?
Alan B, no.
That's what it was, and I was like, no, I'm cool. It's all good. I'm
alive.
fine.
I'm alive. So funny.
Yeah.
Oh, dear God Almighty. Well, shifting over to you, as you are not dead, I hope to God.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, thankfully. I want to talk about My Hime, because I liked that show a lot. I actually, if anybody out there, if you've not seen that show, I think you can still probably pick it up on like Right Stuff or something. Go check that shit out, because it's really good.
I said on eBay it was a little bit expensive, but I'm happy to have it.
Yeah, and was that like mid to late 2000s you guys did that show? I forget.
It was 2004, 2005, because I know I think I was just freshly out of high school at that point.
Something like that.
So other than having to shout Takumi like 5,000 times in every episode.
Yep. Takumi.
Any stories or anything? Because I mean, was that your first like I am the main character of this entire show kind of thing?
Yeah, that would have been like the first sort of big show I did sort of after Zoids, because Fiona was a pretty big character in that series. Mm-hmm. But this was a different beast. And what a cool show, like what a fun storyline. And I just remember sort of going through the paces with the character, because I'm not gonna lie, you know what? I am really bad at prepping. Before I go do stuff, I kind of just show up.
Wing it.
And follow my heart. So for me, every time something would happen, like the director will kind of fill you in on stuff. But when everyone started dying, it was just like, no. Yeah. It was really cool. And I think that was the first time I ever got to have sort of a legit love interest in a show. So that was weird and kind of fun.
To do love scenes through voice. Yeah. A voice love scene is really interesting.
Well, and again, it's one of those weird things, because I think, was that Ethan Cole? Was he Yuichi?
I
might have made that.
The blonde dude? I think so. I think that was him.
Regardless, I never met him.
Yeah.
So doing sort of emotional, heartfelt dialogue for a character that's voiced by someone, because you'll get to listen to the lines if they've voiced before you, but so, doing a love scene with someone you've never ever met, like that was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. And that was some of the first scream crying I ever got to do as well. And that was liberating.
I even almost want to go back and, because it's been a long time. I didn't realize like it's over 10 years old by this point either.
Isn't that crazy?
Insane, yeah. Sorry, you were gonna say something, Lucas. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, there's something that didn't Funimation pick like buy the rights to My Hime?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe they put out a new set or something at some point. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think they've done anything with it yet, but I think that they own the thing.
I'm pretty sure they do.
So I don't know what that is gonna be. Or I don't know, but that's a thing that exists.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I would like a Blu-ray of that. I've never seen the sequel series because I was like, I don't care about the new girl. I just care about Mai because she's the best. I presumed for a while, like, oh, she must have gotten that part because, like, you have red hair. You look kind of like her. Here you go. Fuck it. Yeah.
I did. You know, the funny thing is I actually auditioned for Natsuki as well.
Oh, huh.
And I didn't get that part. And I'm not going to lie, there was a small part of me that was a little heartbroken because Natsuki's such a cool character.
Yeah.
But yeah, toward the end of the series, I just thought Maya's definitely up there with one of my most favorite characters I think I've ever voiced. Just she's very much like me, but also very different. So to get to kind of like play with those emotions with somebody else is like, that's really fun. Yeah,
to go from like fighting to laughing to crying, it just gives you a nice range. Doing shows that have that range is really nice.
Well, because you know it's funny. A lot of people seem to have this perception of like that VO is about like range and doing lots of voices and everything. And when you get to do like really cartoony kind of shit, it's a lot of fun. And it's especially like if you're in something where you can like play multiple characters or whatever, like that's a blast. But I like for me, and I don't know if maybe like you guys have had this experience with a lot of stuff that you guys have done, but like when I can just kind of like not worry about having to affect my voice that much with like an accent or like a pitch or whatever, and I'm just kind of like not like I'm playing myself or whatever. Like, and even then I don't care if that's what it ends up being. But like even if it's just like, hey, it's like it's me if I were in this person's shoes, and I'm thinking entirely about the performance and not about like the characterization of it, I guess.
Well, and that's super nice for me because I know a lot of people that I've met, especially at conventions and things, people are like, I really want to get into voice acting because I sound just like Goku. Like, I swear I sound just like Goku and I can do this amazing impression of him. And I realize of myself that the most important thing about voice acting is the acting part.
Yeah.
And sort of first and foremost, I'm definitely an actor. So the roles that let you explore the range of a character where you can act. And in anime, that's so hard. Like, there's so many shows where they're like, no time for acting, no time for acting.
To the flaps.
The ones where you actually have time to act, for me, are always the most fulfilling.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing for people trying to break into the industry to note as well, is that like, you have to know how to act.
Well, and you have to be, and a large part of that is being comfortable with your natural speaking voice.
Yep.
You know, I get a lot more work talking pretty much just like this. So people are like, oh, you're a voice actor. Do some voices. And I'm going, I'm doing one right now.
I'm doing it.
Do
you like
Zero.
It?
I might as well be doing him right now.
Yeah, this is, and that's such a good point, because like to do Zero, what I'm doing Zero, this is Zero if Zero is having a casual conversation. It's just that the Zero that they're used to is screaming about Mavericks, you know, and that's a different intention. It's the same voice. It's just that I'm not screaming right now, you know?
Yep.
Well, no, it's even funny because there's a part of me, the child in me, like when I listen to you guys, like I am just like, oh, I'm hearing these characters that I like.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that it's like, no, but it is just them, because I prefer, especially when you have something that is more like believable and less like out there and goofy in tone, and it is just people like acting and just being themselves or whatever and going through the motions of it. It's like, I like that. For me personally, I like that style a lot more. So, although I'm sure when you do get to do something that is ridiculous and out there, well, like I'm sure the Card Saturday morning shows probably lend themselves a little bit better to that. I'm sure that's still fun as well.
Oh yeah, there was a show we did years back called Scan to Go.
Oh yeah.
That show was awesome. I don't know what happened to it. I think you can still see the episodes online.
It's somewhere because people have been bringing it up to me.
They're like, okay, you're a tiny robot. And the director kind of let me like throw a little bit of Cartman in there. So that was like a super weird voice. And then like, and now you're also a space pirate.
Yeah.
So it was two really weird, super cartoony characters to do in one show. And I just like, that was fun. Yeah, that was really fun.
It's like candy. Doing stuff like that is like your candy sort of junk food. And then your main course will always just be probably much more typical regular speaking voices.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe sometimes pitched up, pitched down. But they're all fun no matter what.
You know, actually, you just reminded me of a point. I've been thinking more about it. I've been doing a lot of ruminating on this recently.
Oh, not ruminating.
Since I'm gonna room this. When I started doing this professionally, and I started getting into the booth myself and learning what it was really like to be in those people's shoes, I started to realize, like, because I even before, even when I was just a consumer, I was like, man, why do they always have to make them sound so like annoying and over the top or whatever? And blah, blah, what's the deal with that or whatever? And then once you're in there, it's like, but it's so fun. How do you not want to like do something like? So if anything, in some ways, I think it can actually be more difficult to just break out of the headspace of like, I'm voice acting, I am reading my line or whatever, and just being like, no, this is just I'm doing the character like this or whatever, and just speaking normally. Because when you can just do like be ridiculous and especially for if it's a cartoon, you know, as opposed to like something like a commercial or an audiobook or whatever, then it's like you can't help yourself. You know. Yeah.
Well, and part of it is like every cartoon is a team effort.
Yeah.
So that's because I know like as voice actors who've been in the industry long enough, somebody hates your voice. Somebody hates your voice, and that's fine. Mostly my friends and family, but also people on the internet. Somebody out there is not going to like the performance. Mm-hmm. Part of the performance is your choices, certainly, but a lot of it's also what does the client want. What does the director want? Because I've been, you know, halfway through a show and the client's been like, ooh, we didn't mean that when we said, like, don't do it like we told you to do it initially. Like, do what you want. So it's an ebb and flow throughout a series as well, right?
It's a big pushing and pulling. We've experienced a lot of that because like how the lines come across. That there's a writer who wrote the lines and they were translating it and they were feeding back with the client, and then there's a director who's interpreting it, and then there's an actor who's interpreting the direction and the lines. And it's like it's a really complicated, interesting dance where I find when I'm acting for myself in my own content that I control completely,
like the stuff we do on Hermit Sherpa.
It sounds different, and I can do really low-key reads, and I can do reads that I would never be able to sell for anime. Mm-hmm. And then the anime reads, they push you in a certain direction because it's a team effort. It's because of just a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's true. You have to find a way to be able to advocate for yourself within the booth to do certain types of reads while also managing client and director and writer expectations.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a weird dance, but it's beautiful and it's fun.
Oh, yeah.
And when it works out in the end and you get a great product too, like, because that's what it's supposed to be about. Like everybody's generally on the same page. Like there are very few stories I've ever heard about a director behind any show where they're just like, this anime shit, I don't care. And they're so few and far between, honest to God.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think if anything, this I know I've never talked about. I'm pretty sure on like any voiceover related Kirblog I've done. In both my first and secondhand experience, I think that especially when it comes to dubbing anime, and sometimes even for video games, like if it's like in Japanese originally, either way, I think that two of the biggest factors that can lead to performances not being as good as everybody involved can possibly get them to be is lack of time and lack of information. And especially when they come together and it's like, okay, we have to get this done within the week. We don't know the 100% intent and context behind every single thing that's going to happen. So we're going to do our best, and we can maybe try some different options if we have time. And hopefully in the final product, it will mesh together and work, you know?
We're just going to trust ourselves and believe in us.
Yeah, follow our dreams, follow our hearts. And the people that are judging the product that we put out on those kind of timelines with that amount of or lack of information, or sometimes you have lots of information, but the people that are judging it are people who live and breathe the content, and they know so significantly much more than I know about my own character, because like I met my character yesterday and I did the voice today, and these are people who've like, they've read the manga, they've seen the anime, they've played the video game, they've bought like the spin-offs and stuff like that, and it's super duper challenging at times, right? And so like you said, when you get it right, it makes it that much more of a success, because you're like, all right, nailed it, I managed to overcome.
Well, because I think a lot of people forget, and to be fair, I think that in recent years people are becoming a lot more open and understanding to this now, but the truth of the matter is, like, we're cogs in the machine. Like, we're just a very, very small, and it can even be, honestly, black and white, as simple as we go in, we do the lines, we go home, that's it. And we take out the trash and we move on to the next day. Like, it's not like with, you know, when you have like a Disney movie where, you know, sometimes, hell, even maybe some of the actors will have input on the story and like can improv and do all these things. Because even with Prelay, like, it's not always like that too, where it's like you got to get shit done in time and you got to stick to the script. You have to make everything clear, and there's not always a lot of room for futzing around. It's just like we go in, we do it, that's it, and hopefully everybody that makes everything come together in some way, it turns out good. But it's, you know what, and I think it's because we're so accessible, and especially now because of social media, it's just so easy to be like, why did you fucking ruin blah, blah, blah? It's like, but I didn't. I'm sorry, but I didn't really do anything.
Well, and then it's like the crushing guilt of it.
Yeah.
Like, I just ruined someone's life, and I didn't mean to because I tried my hardest. Like, I've had people come to me, and they're like, why aren't you in Street Fighter?
I control that.
I don't like. I mean, I would.
Why are you not the voice of Chi-Chi and everything, huh? Who do you think you are?
Yeah,
well, that's I'm like, I don't know. I just did my best.
No, even that. No, I can't imagine that's probably going to be like. It was just, I don't know. They were doing it here, and I did it, and I didn't know I was replacing somebody. Just God, don't yell at me, please.
But I find for every one person that really hates you, at like a gut level, there's more people who I think like you. I like to think of it that way anyway.
There really are. It's insane the kind of community that we have doing Mega Man and doing Cardfight, Vanguard, and Buddyfight especially. People spring up, and all of a sudden it's like you have a shit ton of friends that you never knew that you had, and we're so lucky to have. And there's a lot, and it's insane, and it's like not deserved, but
it's my favorite part of conventions. It's my favorite part. Is I'm like, oh my God, like I know you want me to write my name on your stuff, but can I just say for like 2 seconds, thank you for talking to me? Because like, I know me, I'm a big weirdo.
I'm nothing.
Like, you want to be my friend now? Like
it's like we go home and we are ourselves every day. And it's nothing out of the ordinary. Like, we're just people, and then all of a sudden people want to be our friends based on our work. And that, like, I feel like I always struggle to communicate how profound that is and how nice it is, because there is a lot more of that than the hate and the complaints. There really is. There's a lot more positivity out there. So it's good.
I would agree. I think that is the upside of the social media side of it, where it's like when people give enough of a shit to want to research, like, oh, who was the voice of that character? Then they did a really good job. I want to find out about them. And then it's like, oh, hey, they're a cool person and they do interesting things, and I want to. And then even like I remember, like, you know, I can say this now, whatever, fuck it, because I am by this point. I remember as a kid, and like I was hearing like interviews and podcasts and panels with like a lot of like the Funimation guys and like. And the Ocean Group guys and a lot of these different people that I grew up hearing and everything. I was like, man, these people are so cool. I want to like be friends with them. Like, it is. It's weird how like that feeling comes up, and I don't know exactly. Maybe it's a cry for help. I don't know.
I think it's remarkable how any form of media, and especially cartoons, can really impact your life, and they become such a huge part of your life. Like I watch almost exclusively cartoons. And the voice actors, for me, the animators do this huge, monumental, incredible task, and then the voice actors come in and they bring that art to life. And what a gift.
Yeah.
Like, what a gift to me in my life.
And
well,
the character.
well, we try, you know.
Yeah.
It makes me think of it's a little bit different, but it's my access into this world. I remember playing Final Fantasy VII like a long time ago, and how every single character in that game, it was like those were my friends. I didn't have friends outside of Final Fantasy VII. I had those characters, and so I'd sit in the basement alone, like forging this like life with the characters in the game that I was playing. Right. And it's I don't know, I think this is what people do, and everyone has a different property that they do that with, and it becomes a bit more important than just a show or just a game. It's like these are in some different way your relationships, your friendships, you know, and then it's only natural to be like, oh, there's people doing those voices and they're also cool, and I want to be friends with them. I think it's totally natural, and I think we all do it just in different ways for different shows or books or whatever.
Or music. Like,
there's something. Everyone has something that they gravitate towards.
Actually, side note, it's funny then when the remake comes out, because you're going to be like, oh, my old friends, and they can talk to me now. I can hear your voices.
They can finally say something back.
Oh my god, is that the guy from General Hospital? Is Cloud? What the fuck? I actually just before Voiceoctover started, I did a Kirblog with my good friend Ben Diskin, who is also a very accomplished voice actor, and we were talking about meeting our heroes in various places. I'm actually curious, especially after what you guys were just talking about. You've talked about a few people within like the Calgary circle that, you know, have been like major supporters and have gotten your start and everything. Do you have like heroes within this circle, or even out, like maybe in like LA or Vancouver or Texas, anywhere that like you really look up to, that you've had experiences with?
Tom Kenny.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tom Kenny. So I don't usually do photo ops or go to photo ops when I do cons. But Tom Kenny was here for Comic Expo. I think it was last year or the year before, I can't remember. And it's the first time I've like paid for a photo op because I was so excited because it's Tom fucking Kenny. Oh, I love him. And so I was trying so hard to be cool. So I'd written. Here's the timeline of my day. I wrote an archaeology exam that morning at 8 a.m. It was my final. Did not sleep the night before, so I was tired. I had a panel, and then I waited around the entire day, so I am strung out. I just need you to know that I'm a hot mess by this point in the day, and everyone I knew at the con had left, and so I'm waiting for my photo op with Tom Kenny, and I was like, I'm cool. I'm a voice actor. We're both voice actors. I've been voice acting a long time. He's been voice acting a long time. I can do this. I'm cool. Whatever. I'll just go get my picture taken. And I fangirled. Oh my god. I walked up to him and I couldn't speak. And all I could spit out was, "I'm so excited!" and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm excited too." And he like did the double guns and like put his arm around me, and I lost motor control of my face.
Her face.
So I think I managed to open my mouth.
Yeah.
So I have this gorgeous photo of me and Tom Kenny with just my mouth open and all teeth.
We've got to send you the photo.
Famous Carol Ann Day like open mouth crazy face that
I'm pretty sure I bowed to him on the way out. I'd just come back from doing a bunch of conventions where you're with Japanese clients, and I bowed.
Wow.
So I guess you could say I don't really have any heroes in voice acting.
No, not necessarily.
Because they're all dead, I killed them.
Yeah, still their essence.
Spoiler, Tom Kenny was the person I killed. That's how I got started.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's one of my most favorite things. And one day if I ever get the pleasure of actually like kind of talking to him as a peer, I'm going to make sure I bring the photo and tell him the story.
Yeah. We've got to send you the photo because it's hilarious. The look on her face is just so weird. It's like, that's not your face. What face is that?
What are you doing? And I was like, I couldn't. Like, I
lost my ability to even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there's lots of amazing voice talent out there. Like, I know people like Tara Strong and Mark Hamill, because I loved the Batman cartoons growing up. So like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, There's Tara Strong and
who's a fellow Canadian, by the way, of
Yep.
course.
so I think I don't know. I think pretty much everyone is my hero.
Yeah, I've never met anyone that I really looked up to. And for me, I've like Billy West, it was really, really big for me.
God, he's so good.
And pretty much anyone in The Simpsons and Futurama, those were the people that I was into the most.
Yeah.
And I've never met them. And one day I hope to, but I don't know. It just hasn't happened. So I don't know what it's like to meet, because I think I would be terribly intimidated.
It is horrifically embarrassing.
Yeah,
Let me tell you what.
The only equivalent experience I have, and it's kind of it's
Was it
different.
when you started hanging out with me?
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, Carol and Dave.
Oh my God, Homes by
Whoa,
Abby.
we did Homes by Abby commercial on the radio. Whoa.
Well, I did want to actually lead into, because I kind of assumed with the fact that there were so many kind of folks around the same age range or so starting, I kind of assumed that a lot of you guys maybe might have, and also it's just how small the whole kind of scene was, that maybe a lot of you guys knew each other. How did you guys all meet each other?
We met. So this is so we met, again, we're like whatever, 14, 15, something like that. So we're awkward junior high schoolers or something.
I was a hard punk. I'm just stating it for the record.
So the first time
I was a badass bitch.
The first time I met Carol Ann, I was sitting down on the futon that they had in the green room. It's a futon for some reason. And I think I had been aware of her. Like I think I knew who she was, but we had never met. And she was just like this kind of intimidating girl, kind of, I don't know, just like.
I was a badass bitch.
She was badass. And so she comes in and like that was her kind of badass punk goth stage.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she comes in with like her jet black hair.
Oh yeah,
I think,
it was a lot of makeup and a lot of ripped clothes and studs.
And she's like got so much personality, and I was such a sheltered little kid. I was so different, and I'm like, hi Carol Ann, my name's Lucas. And the only thing she says to me, the first thing out of her mouth, she puts her hand in front of my face and shows me her fingernails, and she says, black nail polish. Like, what?
And I have no recollection of this event.
Yeah, exactly. It was the weirdest thing. She was so proud of her black nail polish. That was her introduction to me. And I've never forgotten that.
I still take immense pride in my black nail polish because
Are you wearing black nail polish right now?
No, I'm clean today. Like,
for now.
And then ever since then, I would go to the studio, and I came to know, like, she would always put her stuff in one part of the place. And so if I'd go in, like, her purse and her coat were sprawled all over the green room, I'd be like, oh, Carol Ann's here. Hey.
And I just make myself at home, you know.
how did we actually become friends? How did that start?
Okay, so you sent me a message.
Yeah.
You sent me a message. This would have been probably like a decade ago, maybe.
Something like 2004, maybe. I don't know.
It was a long time ago. I got this message. It might have been on MSN. So
or Facebook,
or
I don't
like
know.
The early days.
Yeah.
And all the message said, it was like message from Lucas Gilbertson. And I was like, oh, I know that name.
Yeah.
And the message said, I know your name, asshole. Let's be friends. I was like, yeah, all right. Yeah, of course. Well, definitely.
I mean, I can't argue with that. Fucking whatever.
Yeah.
That's how we started hanging out.
I wanted to be friends so bad that I was like, and I knew that the only connection was that we were acquainted and we knew each other's names. So that's what I led with. And I was like, I'm gonna not make it seem like I'm like friend mining, and I'm gonna be like, and I'll put the word asshole in there so that it seems like I'm not desperate for friends. And I'm like, I know your name, asshole. Let's be friends, right?
Oh.
And it worked. I'm like, hey, this kid's a straight shooter. All right, I'm in.
Oh my God. No, it's just like, hey, well, I mean, sure, if you're gonna be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, I mean, the acting community here at the time was pretty small, so I think it was pretty incestuous. Like, we all kind of knew
of each other, the very least. Yeah.
Who are the other folks that I mean, obviously you guys have like your dynamic duo shit going on, but any other folks like from the scene that you guys are like pretty tight with, like you kind of hang out at cons or otherwise with?
It ebbs and flows. Like right now in this moment, there's a guy named Hans Wackershauser.
Yeah.
And he's really, really, really cool. We really like him. And we do a lot of stuff with him through kind of Hermit Sherpa as well as at the studio.
Yeah, and there's people I've acted with for years. People like Brendan Hunter, Michael Shepard, Scott Roberts, Kate Medrick, who I've known for...
amazing. Zoe Sluzar, the Kid Goku from the Canadian dubs of the Dragon Ball stuff. She's amazing. She's like
I like her. I've heard like a fair amount of her stuff. She's really good.
Yeah.
I always liked. I don't know if you guys know Jeff Watson.
Jeffrey Watson. Yeah,
he's law school. I think he went to law school.
I think he's becoming a lawyer.
Because he got a degree in philosophy, and then I think he went into law.
Yeah, he disappeared as well.
There was a time where I was hearing him and I felt like a bunch of different things all at the same time. And
he is an amazing voice.
I was like, oh, he sounds so nice. Like everything I hear him in, he sounds like such a nice guy.
100% that he is one of the nicest people. He's got one of those really clean, really natural, really genuine personalities where you talk to him and it's like, you're a good dude. I like you. You're just a good guy. I'm 100% on board with Jeffrey Watson.
But then, I don't think I've ever really met anyone at the studio that I haven't liked.
Yeah, that's the thing about voice acting is that there's so much less weirdness than there are in other forms of acting, I think. There's a lot...
Roger, I had the pleasure of doing a convention with, and, Roger...
We have a thing about Roger Rhodes.
We do, and we've never told Roger Rhodes, so I hope he's...
No, I kind of hope he's not listening.
It's okay, he'll never hear this.
Sorry, Roger, this is just how it is.
We love Roger. We think he's one of the best people.
So talented.
So much so.
That I believe that if reincarnation's a thing, and you live a perfect life enough times...
More than once.
I believe you get reincarnated as Roger Rhodes.
That's what happens.
But you got to do it right.
You have to live completely as kingly as possible, and then you're Roger Rhodes. I worked with him in radio. He did the morning show or the afternoon show at a country music station, and I worked with him a little bit. And I was just he is one of those people where he's better than everyone, and it doesn't matter. He is so nice and kind, and he has his loving family, and it's like. No one on the face of this planet will ever have anything negative to say about Roger Rhodes.
There's him, and there's people like Dave Pettit who he's
a saint. He's hilarious.
You grew up with him, and just what a phenomenally talented individual he is.
Also the coolest voice in goddamn existence.
Exactly.
He's amazing.
He's ridiculous.
Look at my body, Domon.
Yeah, and now he's doing narrations for everything, out of Vancouver and Nanaimo.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about Dave Pettit? He he has to commute from Nanaimo, which is on Vancouver Island. So he has to go into Vancouver, he has to cross the ocean, like a body of water. And you can do that by ferry, but no, Dave Pettit don't take no ferry. He takes a helicarrier. He literally. Exactly, and I see pictures of it on Facebook all the time. That is the coolest thing. You take a helicopter, and not just any helicopter. It's a 12-person helicopter that he takes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, shit. It's amazing. He's a hero. Yeah, for sure.
Holy shit! Wow. Well, I guess then going back to the two of you though, because that's what this is all about.
It's all about us.
How did I think actually this is a great way to. Oh, you know what? Actually, hold on. No, before I ask about Hermit Sherpa, because I want to end on that.
Cool.
We talked a little bit about advice, and you guys were talking about your tried and true actors before you were doing voiceover. I know maybe this is another one of the generic questions, but any kind of advice, anything that you would give to people who are, now that there are a lot more. In fact, actually, you know what? No. Here, I'll even get more specific. From what I understand, there have become opportunities for up-and-comers in Calgary with the classes available and stuff like that, and the fact that because of the fact that the kids, get to start doing stuff, maybe for even people that are specifically in Canada. If you want to go there, what kind of advice would you give to people who want to get into voiceover?
What I always tell people, number one, and I'll say it once and I'll say it 100 times, the foundation of being a good voice actor is being a good actor. So I always encourage people to take workshops before you go to your first general. Mm-hmm. Get some practice in, get comfortable with the microphone. Because even the most seasoned, I've seen veteran actors get in front of a microphone and freeze up because it's a weird, intimidating thing.
Yeah.
So learning how to do that and just remembering to it's gonna sound a little bit harsh, but check your ego at the door. and know that like as a newcomer, like you don't know everything about this industry. So just be open to learning, and be okay with the fact that you might suck for a while.
Yeah.
Sucking sucks, but like it's how you grow.
I think it's really important to check your preconceived notions of what you think it's going to be like. Just don't even go in there thinking, just go in like a blank slate.
That's exactly it. You are zen, you are empty.
You are, be water, be formless, like don't go, because those are some of the primary mistakes that people make, is they go in and they think they know a lot about it before they've done it. And it so often doesn't work for them.
Yep.
And because of that, and sometimes I feel a bit guilty because they'll ask like, how did you get into voice acting? And the way that I got in, I don't think is valid once an industry has grown beyond a certain size in a city. I think it's one of those horrible answers where I got in partially due to timing and luck.
Yep.
If I was to get into the industry right now, I would go in through workshops and training and auditioning and agents. But the way that I got in 15, 16 years ago, the industry wasn't there yet. So I think people have to do a bit of research and see, where is the industry in your city? If you live in a big city, a big center, you're probably going to be a really small fish in a very big pond, and you need to work your way up the ladder and earn it,
Yep.
And the only way to do that is by being good, and the only way to get good is by practicing and working hard and learning and taking direction and taking advice.
Yeah, I've known a lot of people who go in and they're like, oh, I can do this amazing robot voice, so I'm going to do my robot voice, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my best, like, power-up thing.
Yeah.
And that's, 90% of the time,
Yeah.
they don't care.
They
don't
don't
want that. They want to hear you.
It's a really dispassionate process, much more so than people will think. It's very clinical at times. They'll be like, I just want to hear you, because I've heard, when you go to a studio, they've heard voices every day of their life for 30 years,
Yep.
And so what they want to hear is what you do that no one else does. And there is something for all of us. There's something that you as a person, and only you, can do, because only you have your specific voice. And that's why you need to focus on that. Don't do what someone else did. Wait until they ask you to do whatever voice it is that you have in your stable of voices.
Yeah.
You got to lead with what makes you unique. And I think it can take time to find that, and practice that.
Part of it's also a process where they're testing you to make sure that they can direct you.
Yeah.
I know that's a big thing. Like if you're undirectable, then it doesn't matter how wonderful your voice is.
Yeah. That's why no matter what you come in with, they're going to ask you to change.
Yep. Whether or not your read was perfect right off the bat, they'll get you to do it 3 times because they're testing you.
Yeah. So practice. So everything that Carol Ann says, I think is the best answer, and it's the only answer. And then my only addition to that is like, I feel like for me, the way that I got better, and still the only way that I get better is workshops. But really what I'm getting from the workshops is practice.
Yeah.
And if I'm practicing and I'm actually, recording myself, and you don't need $1,000 microphone to do that. You can record yourself on your cell phone, read scripts, practice with your friends, do little short scenes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do voices, do regular voices, do a soldier, just play around and practice. Because that practice, that's, you need hours under your belt of doing voices. That's what you need.
Yep.
So yeah, do it.
I agree with all of that. And now, finally, back to you. Tell me a little bit about the formation and the existence and the why, how, what, who, where of Hermit Sherpa, because I want to know.
What the deets? So the genesis of Hermit Sherpa is long and storied.
500 years ago.
Yeah. I started drawing a bunch of characters and designing a bunch of stuff in 2004-ish, and I wanted to make a bunch of different cartoons. I was supposed to move to Vancouver to do voice acting there, and kind of like I had a really cool opportunity with a really big agency there to sort of level up my voice acting career. And I got super sick, and I went to the hospital, and I had to have a bunch of surgeries, and so I couldn't go. So I sort of shelved the next level of my career as a voice actor and as a cartoon person just by circumstance. And then I moved into radio through a long history of things. I had all my surgeries. I got better. Went into radio, and I did really well with it. I got on air. I had a news talk show that I did here in Calgary. And then I was on the morning show in a smaller city near Calgary, and that was cool, but it wasn't right for me. But it gave me enough confidence to be like, I need to go back to what I really enjoyed, which was cartoons and characters and anime and dubbing and stuff like that. So in late 2014, I left radio, and I was like, I've always been meant to do this. And when I redubbed the Death of Iris scene, that was kind of the first time that I was sort of trying to do something different and trying to do something more and like create something. And I don't even know what I was creating at that point, but I was trying. So late 2014, I left radio, and I was like, I want to go back to that. I want to go back, because that's when I was really enjoying myself, and I was talking to people online, and I was making something. So we started making cartoons. We made like a children's cartoon was our first one.
Yep.
And we just started teaching ourselves how to animate, how to create cartoons, so we could do voices for them, but also so that we could create more of an industry within our city and within our province for other voice actors, for other artists, for other people, for writers and directors and all sorts of things. And then it just spiraled out of control, like
horrifically. Our lives have become completely unmanageable.
They've been completely consumed. Like, we'll make tons of cartoons, and Carol Ann works like insane hours.
Yeah.
We both do, creating things. And now there's a studio out of New York that we have 2 cartoons that are going to MIPCOM. And if you don't know what MIPCOM is, it's in Paris. It's like the Media Internationale Production thing.
It's a pretty big deal. It's pretty big deal.
It's where cartoons are bought and sold, and where like dubbing contracts for anime are sort of decided on.
Yeah.
So we have a couple cartoons going there, and we have like a film that we're working on potentially with these other groups. So we're doing a bunch of stuff, and all of it is rooted in the fact that I simply wanted to do more voice acting. And
it started, I think,
we needed more.
We started doing conventions.
Yeah.
Quite a bit years back, and we kept being there and being like, well, okay, but what's next? What's next? What
else can I do? I need more.
And so we tried a bunch of stuff, and it didn't work. And then making our own cartoons seemed like the natural progression. Like, we are an extremely effective team when it comes to working in this industry.
Yeah.
I have always sort of painted and drawn and things like that. Like, I do art, and I do music. It's a weird way to put that, but that's
talented, yeah.
And so this just seemed like the right choice. I'm having misgivings.
It's really difficult.
It's such a temperamental.
It's very
industry,
difficult and time consuming.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
No, I'm happier now doing this with the monumental challenge that this is than I ever was in radio on air. And for a lot of people, that's their dream, is to get on air in radio, and it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And bringing it back to the conventions that you brought up, when we got really lucky, because people from Calgary and Alberta and Blue Water, really, Carol Ann was the first person to do a convention. That was not a thing that anyone from our city had done before Carol Ann. In like 2007 was a couple of her first ones, just like local conventions at that point. And then we got the opportunity because of a huge opportunity from a company called Bushy Road Global. And they're the ones that do Cardfight, Vanguard, and future Card Buddyfight. They took us out. They flew me to Los Angeles for Anime Expo in 2012, I think. And it was insane. And then you're signing autographs and you're meeting people, and you're like, okay, like I'm good at this, and I want to do more, and I want to meet more people, and I want to make people happy with what I do. How? And then they sent Carol Ann to Anaheim, and then they sent me and Carol Ann both.
With the both of us, we went to Manchester, England.
Yeah.
Which was like, England! It was so cool.
And can you imagine growing up since you're 14 at a studio, and you grow up there, and then all of a sudden, and you love it, and it's so much fun, and people enjoy what you do sometimes, and you just want to do more, and then you get sent to travel for it, and you're like, okay, we're good at this. I love this. People like this. I want to make people feel good. I want to feel good. How can I do more?
Yeah.
And so after all of those experiences, Carol Ann and I sat down on the same couch that we're sitting on right now, and we're like, how can we get our foot in the door of the next level? How can we do more for ourselves, but also for the industry and Blue Water and for everyone here? How can we level this up and just get more work and do more?
So we decided to build our own next level.
Yeah, we're building it ourselves, and
Yep.
it's called Hermitship, and we make cartoons, and you do too, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
You're
because
an
I've seen
awesome animator.
Yeah.
Tom is fantastic.
And it's
stop
it's
it.
so
Cool.
inspiring because it's like Tom is amazing, and we want to grow towards things like that because that is so cool, right?
Yeah.
No, it's insane. And then hearing your voice and hearing what you do, it's like it's actually really cool because it feels like it's just another facet of industry that we want to do more in, and it's awesome to have, I don't know, to meet people and do stuff like
it's
this.
just really
great.
nice to be here right now.
It's just really great to be here right now.
It's just really nice to be here right now.
No, seriously, no, that really does. I'm not putting on a show. That really does mean a lot. And like, it's funny because there's so much. First of all, I think that entire story actually is a further extension to the advice because I think that that's incredibly poignant for people to be aware of. I actually can certainly relate to, even though I don't live in New York anymore. The New York talent pool, I think, actually gets a bad rep because of, you know, the reputation of the 4Kids stuff back in the day when there are so, I mean, like, for fuck's sake, Broadway is in New York. There's so many amazingly talented performers that are there. And even though Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh is what the VO scene is mainly known for, like anytime something really cool, like with MLAV Post, I talked to Stephanie Shea about that. When they get to do something there and like showcase what they can do, like that makes me really happy. Just like I'm sure like when Blue Water gets something that's, oh, this is really cool. Oh, I really hope that people like this kind of thing. Yeah. And then as far as like pushing to the next level, I mean, like that's something that since I've moved out here that like I've really become so self-aware of with everything I do, with every aspect of like animation, voiceover, creativity in general. It really is, and the fact that we kind of have, I've said this 1,000 times, but I'll say this again too. We're very lucky that we have the internet age of just we can make whatever the fuck we want and put it on the internet and it's there. And if it's good, hopefully, then hopefully it will be deservedly shopped around and get around and etc. And all the while you're trying to improve with each successive thing, then there is more and more inspiration to be had, more and more inspiration to be given. And I love that shit. So, Like, I found it so beneficial because, I mean, Lucas does the majority of our animating. I'm learning. I'm getting there. Baby steps. Mm-hmm. But to be able to explore all the different assets of your industry, things that you wouldn't necessarily know as just a voice actor, things like character design and how things are put together and having the opportunity to write scripts and see, like, okay, let's do a 5-minute cartoon. Let's write a script. Okay, it's a 20-minute cartoon. Awesome.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Just learning and participating at that level for me is so rewarding. Yeah. Voicing cartoons is amazing. Building cartoons is incredible.
And they both make each other better. When we started making our own cartoons, we started to become even better voice actors. And it's fed into itself, which is really gratifying because that's what life is about, is learning and growing and always challenging yourself. And I think we found our way to challenge ourselves and to grow. Yeah. And that's key to being a voice actor, is you got to be learning, you got to be growing.
Yeah, you're never going to be as good as you want to be, which is what I like. When I used to play music, I always realized that no matter how good the thing was that I wrote, my ear always wanted it to be better. Yeah. So you just keep trying to level up, and then as soon as you do level up, you realize that there's more. Yeah. And so it's just that constant process of knowing that no matter how long you've been in an industry, you're never above criticism. You're never too good to get better.
Yeah. And the phrase that I heard that describes what you're saying is that your taste will always outstrip your talent. Yeah. And it should. If your taste will always be like, you know what, I could do better. And then just don't let it discourage you. Just try to do better next time. And then you'll always feel like that, and that's okay. You know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's a challenge in and of itself to find a balance between, like, in a healthy way, pushing yourself and wanting to do better with each, successful, no matter what it is that you're doing, anything and everything, and not as I think Todd Haberkorn has used the term, gold rush mentality, where like you're never satisfied and you're never happy with what you're doing because it's always gonna be like, oh, but I could have done it better. It's like with everything you do, that's the level of skill that you were at that point in time. And unless you hurt somebody or actually fucked something up, which, you know, by and large you probably didn't, and you're probably just being hard on yourself. It's worth being proud of, you know?
Oh, yeah. I always say celebrate every victory.
Yeah.
Because every project you complete, you just look at yourself and you're like, hell yeah, I'm working. I'm working and I did a project. Yeah. Now what's next?
It's really good advice, because if you have to find some way to be happy, especially in industries like this. Like you can't hang your ego and your self-worth on the projects, because they'll come and go.
Yep.
So you do have to find a way to be proud of yourself and happy with yourself while still wanting to grow and change. You have to be able to do both, and it's a contradiction, but it's like, that's the beauty of life, you know. Yeah. You know, I want to get better, but also what I'm doing is still good enough, and I still want to get better. I can do both at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah. Totally true.
Find that balance, everybody. I think that's, if you take nothing else away from this, please. This was really fucking cool, guys. Like, my God,
awesome.
Seriously. Hey, thank you. And by the way, I'm playing favorites here. You are welcome to come on a Kirblog anytime if you ever have an idea for something, because this would be great.
100%.
And
tomorrow.
Also, I feel like probably because compared to the other people that I had on, you probably have more free time. So. Also.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Nothing but free time.
Well, I think that's gonna wrap us up. So I guess very last thing. Do you guys want to plug social media, Twitters, Facebooks, all the usual shit? And obviously, youtube.com/HermitSherpa. We can see all their great stuff.
Yeah. YouTube.com/HermitSherpa. Twitter.com/HermitSherpa, Twitter.com/CarolAnimation.
Yep, we're on Facebook. So Hermit Sherpa has a Facebook page. I'm there, Carol Ann Day Voice.
Yeah, if you Google anything with Hermit Sherpa, we're the only Hermit Sherpa that exists. So you'll probably just find us. Yeah.
All right. Well, go find them. I'll have links to all that shit in the description, so you won't have to search far. Cool. That's gonna do it for us. So everybody, in the comments below, if you have any stories or memories or things to share about any Calgary dubbed or recorded animu or Vidorogams or anything like that you want to share, if perhaps you've met Carol and or Lucas at a convention before, you know, tell us anything, any thoughts you have. If there's any stuff that you want to share about that, and maybe any other questions, and perhaps I'll sift through that, or hell, maybe even they'll look at them. I would imagine you guys probably look at YouTube comments. And yeah, that's it. By this point, I think this will be like the fourth one of these. So I'm having some semblance of what the order will be by now. So there's a couple left. Don't know when or who they'll be, because not all of them have been recorded yet at the time that we're doing this. Time travel, what else is new?
Live by the sword.
Yeah.
What's up?
Live by the sword, die by the sword?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds like a violent...
Follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to pull the blade out of my back. That's it. Yeah, follow your dreams, and don't kill me with a sword. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks for having us.